In the 13th century, a thunderous shadow swept from the east, covering continents in fear.
Empires crumbled to dust before the Mongol horde. Even Persia, the jewel of the East, fell. The once mighty caliphate was weak, waiting for the final blow from the relentless invaders. To conquer that vast region, the great Khan commanded a host unlike any the world had seen.
250,000 men, the largest army in history, marching toward the rich Persian lands.
But this time the army was led not by a general, but a prince of the Golden Family itself. A grandson of the great Genghis Khan, Hulagu stood as the ultimate expression of power. His mission was simple: eliminate all resistance from the Caspian Sea to the Nile River. He destroyed the fabled city of wisdom, Baghdad, but then turned around to build something new. From the ashes of destruction, he carved the Ilkhanate, a new realm of cultural synthesis. He patronized scholars and scientists, creating the Maragheh Observatory, a beacon of light. He was a ruthless conqueror, a great patron, and a statesman, establishing a Mongol dynasty. Yet despite his scale of impact, only 3% know his name or the Ilkhanate's history.
This is the story of Hulagu Khan the Destroyer, who built a nation, and his lost legacy.
Hulagu Khan's dynasty was not built on mere conquest, but on 3 unwavering pillars of legacy.
The first was ruthless obedience, a loyalty to the great Khan's bloodline beyond all else. The second was strategic vision, using siegecraft and psychology to break the strongest walls.
The final pillar was cultural synthesis, protecting and absorbing the scholars of the conquered lands. These 3 ideas created the mighty Ilkhanate and the first great Mongol successor state in the West.
But before he became this legend, this man of epic conquests, Hulagu was just a child of the steppe.
Born into the golden bloodline, his lineage destined him for conquest, but he began simply.
His father Tolui taught him to obey the Yasa law and serve the Mongol destiny above all. Even at his young age, his martial skills were sharp, and his strategic mind already taking hold. He was born near the Altai Mountains and raised on the strict laws of the Mongol nomadic code.
His father, Tolui, the youngest son of Genghis Khan, was a legend known for his fierce loyalty. The young boy excelled in all the 3 Mongol manly sports, the shooting and the riding. But unlike his cousins, he loved the quiet scholarship of the conquered lands, learning their skills.
But peace was short-lived, and tragedy struck the family, changing the course of his young life forever.
His father, Tolui, was poisoned by his rival faction in the midst of a great political struggle.
With his dying breath, Tolui passed on a grim command of the Mongol bloodline. Father's dying words: "The bloodline is all. Serve the great Khan, or become the earth." The weight of this dying promise settled on his shoulders, and the ultimate loyalty required. He learned then that to survive the Mongol Empire, one must serve the greater good of the blood. The young boy Hulagu was gone, replaced by a prince who understood the price of power.
Years passed with this heavy burden of his father's words and the shadow of the blood feuds.
He struggled with the nomadic need for freedom versus the imperial duty to govern sedentary lands.
Inner conflict was visualized as a constant pull between his ancestors' wild ways and the crown.
He stood at a crossroads, a prince, forced to choose between personal ambition and his duty to the blood.
The long years passed with silent contemplation. Hulagu grew from a boy to a seasoned man.
As a man, he wrestled with destiny. Should he rule or serve the Mongol imperial structure?
The deep trauma of his father's fate fueled an intense inner struggle for true personal power.
Then great Khan Mongke summoned him with a grand mission to pacify the chaotic Middle East. The prince was transformed, now a supreme military commander, the iron fist of the great Khan. He gathered the largest Mongol army ever assembled for a single campaign, marching towards the west. Hulagu planned his war with ruthless precision. His targets were not just armies, but the old order.
The Persian world shuddered at the news of this colossal army marching towards the old centers.
From the Caliph in Baghdad to the sultans of Cairo, they prepared for the coming storm of the Mongols.
His march was unstoppable. His will was iron. The fate of the entire Islamic world was sealed.
His long journey had a single first target, the deadly fortress of the Nizari Ismailis. The first challenge was the assassins' mountain strongholds, deemed utterly impossible to attack. But Hulagu did not need brute force. His weapon was fear, the true psychological approach. He ordered his forces to simply surround the fortress in total silence for many long weeks. Then he sent a simple letter demanding surrender or face the full fury of the Mongol war machine. The Grand Master of the Assassins surrendered without a fight, conquered by pure psychological warfare.
The lesson was clear. Brute force only was not required. Total destruction often was the final answer. Baghdad, the city of peace, was the greatest city in the world, a center of knowledge and wealth. The Caliph al-Mustasim was blind to the threat, surrounded by his own delusions of grandeur.
Hulagu brought both Persian siege engineers and Chinese rocketeers, a terrifying combination of force. He sent the Caliph a final warning to surrender or face the complete and utter wrath of the Khan. The Caliph in return made a deadly mistake, sending back an arrogant answer of supreme defiance.
The siege began a terrible onslaught of fire and stone against the once impenetrable walls of Baghdad.
Hulagu took the city with devastating ruthlessness and the final lesson in Mongol submission.
The Caliph was captured and executed, marking the end of the 500-year-old Abbasid Caliphate. This act shattered the political and religious heart of the Middle East, forever altering history.
With the Caliphate destroyed, Hulagu had a choice to rule the new land or destroy it completely.
The man who destroyed Baghdad became its protector, and his next mission to build a new world.
Hulagu Khan was not merely a destroyer, he was a founder. He established the Ilkhanate, a new realm. He adopted the established Persian administrative system, adapting nomadic law to sedentary rule. This center of learning was so advanced, it created tables of celestial movement that lasted for centuries. He brought stability to a region ravaged by centuries of conflict, paving the road for a new Persian age. But his vast expansion was stalled by the Mamluks of Egypt, the only power that dared defy the Mongols.
He sent the Mamluk Sultan a threatening letter demanding immediate surrender or annihilation.
The Mamluk Sultan Qutuz responded by beheading Hulagu's messenger, a final and deadly insult.
The two empires met at Ain Jalut, the spring of Goliath, in the most fateful battle of the age. But for the first time in his life, Hulagu's army suffered a major defeat, losing Syria and Palestine.
Jalut established a fixed border of the Mongol Empire, a line they would never cross again.
Hulagu chose to consolidate his power and not further challenge the unstoppable Mamluk state.
He focused on the intellectual world, funding scholars and science. A new era of cultural synthesis began. This legacy of conquest and culture is largely ignored, yet it fundamentally shaped the modern Middle East. Hulagu Khan was not merely a destroyer, he was a founder. He established the Ilkhanate, a new realm.
He adopted the established Persian administrative system, adapting nomadic law to sedentary rule.
Hulagu founded the Maragheh Observatory, bringing the greatest minds to his service for science.
This center of learning was so advanced, it created tables of celestial movement that lasted for centuries.
He brought stability to a region ravaged by centuries of conflict, paving the road for a new Persian age.
His actions destroyed the Caliphate, arguably the most important political event in Middle Eastern history.
He created a cultural bridge between the nomadic ways of the Mongols and the settled ways of the Persians.
The golden age of Persian literature and art flourished under the new Mongol patronage and tolerance.
The Ilkhanate was the direct precursor state to the modern nation of Iran and its cultural identity.
Let us now remember the complex and contradictory legacy of the Mongol, who carved a new world.
Hulagu Khan, the Iron Mongol.